We came so far from dreams. The path was hard for me. They thought we fall, you see. Well, look at us now, look at us now. We make it hot when we on the scene. Yeah, that's 1,000 degrees. I got a grind for me and my team. Yeah, you know we gon' eat. You see the crowds when we come around. You know that I roll with some kings. We sit it down, I don't hear a sound, but I ask you who better than we. Tell me who better than we. We soaring to places you never could reach. When we walk in that spot, don't hear none of you speak. Shh, do you want peace or the peace? A king about to put you to sleep. Listen, my team is elite. You not even qualified to compete. He starving, he barely can eat. I guess that's why he always itching for beef. So I put him on ice and I told him to chill. Close your mouth if you can't pay for the meal. Making statements that you know you don't mean. Nice guy trying to act like he mean. Keep it a buck, keep it a bean. Attitudes will put you dudes in the beam. Isekai, he don't live in reality. Shake back off, come on fatality. Yeah, how you gon' hate when you mirror us? He think he a star, he ain't serious. X him out, we not on the same frequency. If you broke, you ain't hearing us. Work the screw, anime, that's how I feel, period. We winning, that's making them furious. We make it high when we on the scene, yeah, that's 1,000 degrees. I got a grind for me and my team, yeah, you know we gon' eat. You see the crowds when we come around, you know that I roll with some kings. We sit it down, I don't hear a sound, but I ask you who better than we.
Yo, what it do, guys? It is your boy, Leon Mookie here, back to give you another new one-shot for Total Drama Island. And this is What If Rean Was in Total Drama Island. And some of you may be wondering, wait, Leon, who the hell is Rean? But for all of my old-time fans who have been part of this channel when I started doing What Ifs, all know that Rean, aka Rean Schwarzer, one of the many protagonists of the Legend of Heroes Trails series, mainly that of its Cold Steel saga, is one of my all-time favorite protagonists in video game history. To me, there's no other protagonist that can compare to Rean Schwarzer for me. I won't lie, there's still other cooler characters, but for me, Rean is always going to be my GOAT. And the reason and you may be wondering, why am I using Rean when I could be using, Will, who is basically the newest mascot of my channel now, since I'm doing what ifs around him? Well, it's simple, really. Will is still too new. The series with story is still too new for that of anime fans right now. So I think I'll wait until like season 2. Then I'll probably do a Total Drama one-shot with him. But before that, I'll have to hold off a little bit. So I decided to do it with that of Rean instead. Since he's been part of this channel for years, I think it's about time for me to use him properly after all. So yeah, at any rate, with all that said, let's go into this, shall we, guys? For this timeline of Total Drama Island, Rean Schwarzer, otherwise known as the Ashen Chevalier, or later on in his early adulthood, he would be known as the Divine Blade of Ash. However, since that only teenage characters can be part of Total Drama Island, I figured that, the Rean that we could use is the end of the Civil War in that of Trails of Cold Steel 2 Rean, actually. During this timeline, he would be 18 after all, while fighting in that of the Civil War of Erebonia. Not to mention, he would still be a student at Thor's military academy, so there's that too. And just like with that of Izuku and Asta, he won't have his powers, unfortunately. So that means no power to, control and conjure that of flames, or basically that of his ogre power too, which allows him his spirit unification. Not to mention, he also won't have access to that of Valimar, his divine knight. But even without all of that, he's still a skilled swordsman, and that of the 8 leaves 1 blade style after all. Sure, technically he's in the intermediate level because he held back so much, but given that this is a Rean that no longer held himself back and gave it his all, he may technically be at intermediate level in that of the school of the 1 blade style. However, if you look at his accomplishments and his abilities and his skills alone, he's definitely close to that of mastery. So even without his masters, he's still a skilled, well, in that of physical capabilities and also mentally as well. Not to mention, just as I said before, since this Rean is the one from Trails of Cold Steel 2, it would have to be after he ended the, well, Civil War, said goodbye to all of his classmates as they go their separate ways, and him staying at Thor's. But most definitely, I could see some of the, well, faculty of Thor's alongside that of even that of the Arabonian military to give Rean at least some time off. Surprisingly, that's where Total Drama Island soon comes in. As you can tell, in this part, he'll be part of the Screaming Gophers. And as for the person he'll be replacing in that of the Screaming Gophers is... I'm honestly surprised about this one. It's actually Noah. So yeah, Noah's gone from this part of Total Drama after all, and replaced by Rean. So let's get straight into that of this timeline. As Rean arrives at that of Total Drama Island and seeing all of his fellow competitors, he says that he looks forward to giving it his all and winning that of the $500,000 after all. At first, some weren't really fazed by that of Rean. However, some could really tell on how much of a pretty boy he is. Hell, he's not as pretty as Justin, but still. Not to mention, what stands out the most is that of the sword on his back being his Itachi. However, it's not anything dangerous. It's basically his training Itachi, given that his real one is all the way back at Thor's. The edges are basically blunted to the point that it can't even cut anything properly, even if Rean wanted to. Even away, he has to continue his training in the 8 Leaves, one blade style school. As they settle in, they soon begin that of their first challenge, being the 1,000-meter drop and to build their very own hot tub. As for the drop, honestly, this wouldn't be anything crazy for that of Rean, to be honest. Given the stuff he actually went through during his events during the first Cold Steel game and the second, basically jumping at least that of 20 feet into that of a shark-infested waters isn't anything too crazy for him. So I don't see him basically chickening out of this, to be honest. With nothing changing with that of the Killer Bass, as Courtney and DJ wouldn't, well, jump anyway, alongside Beth being part of the Screaming Gophers. So the Screaming Gophers would still have the advantage with that of the carts to carry that of the supplies that they would need to make their hot tub. However, given that, well, Heather and Lashana having some animosity with each other would put at least somewhat of a damper on that of the team, to be honest. And Rean would try to convince the two of them to try and, well, put aside their differences for now to work on the jacuzzi after all. So yeah, luckily Heather decided to do so, mainly just so she could basically pretend that she's, well, working with that of Lashana and the others. However, Rean would be aware of this, to be honest, and decides to just keep his eyes on that of Heather for the time being. Especially being around Heather brings back at least some, well, memories of a certain person during his time at Thor's. But other than that aside, the same thing happens as always with that of the first challenge. The Screaming Gophers will win due to having better teamwork and working together, surprisingly. With the Killer Bass basically arguing, messing with each other, and basically injuring one another while making the, well, hot tub, leading to the Screaming Gophers getting their first win and the Killer Bass becoming the first losers. And just like always, Ezekiel gets eliminated first because that will always be canonical and canon event after all. When you're speaking like a sexist asshole, of course you're going to get eliminated. Next up is the Awake-a-thon, as this challenge wouldn't be much of a problem for Rean because, again, he came from a military academy after all. Stuff like this is basically basic to be honest. Even though Thor's isn't as strict as other military academies in that of the Trail series, it's still a military academy. Counting that with Rean's training by his master, the founder of the 8 Leaves, One Blade style. Honestly, the Awake-a-thon is child's play for somebody like him, where the run around that of the island wouldn't be much of a problem. Him basically gorging himself during that of the meal, as honestly, he would be aware about that of the meat, about all of the food after all, because most of the food would be stuff that you would eat that would put you to sleep pretty easily after all and exhaust your energy. So he would basically eat sparingly, not to overwhelm himself after all. When everybody's done eating, that's when Chris would bring up the final aspect of the challenge, being the full-on Awake-a-thon, as they have to stay up for as long as they can. And for Rean, this is basically child's play. Rean could possibly handle that of staying up pretty damn late. However, his body would still feel that of the strain of constantly being awake without getting proper shut-eye due to his routine training schedule. But even with that, he's still able to hang in there quite long for that of this challenge. Hell, even before that of Eva MP3 player, Rean actually would notice this and would ended up giving it back to that of Eva before she noticed that it was gone. With that, Eva would think that Rean is a good guy, stupidly too nice for his own good, even against his own opponent, against his own enemies, but still. Not only that, it also would mess with that of Heather's plan after all, to basically get rid of Eva on that of the other team, which once again puts that of, Rean on that of Heather's radar. However, Rean is also aware of this too, but decides to show that he's not aware of her, animosity towards him after all, given that his ability to sense others after all. But as for this challenge, once again goes to that of the Screaming Gophers. Not only for that of Gwen, who's also able to stay up pretty damn long with Rean, and Duncan falling asleep while taking a shit. So the person he'll probably be going from that of the Killer Bass probably will be, unfortunately, Harold. As much as I hate to get rid of the guy, he has to. Next up is the dodgeball match. And even since Harold is gone, at least those from the Killer Bass would get at least a little bit more sleep after the bullshit that was the Awake-a-thon. But even so, Duncan would still have to suffer quite a bit. However, thankfully, Eva's here, so I don't see that of the, Killer Bass suffering that much, at first. They still had to attend with that of Rean, who, even though looks like he doesn't have that much power, but due to his training and everything else he's gone through, doubtful that anything that they throw at him will basically be a problem. Sure, Eva and Duncan are the only two people who would give him a challenge, but even so, Rean's speed and training in the 8 Leaves 1 Blade style, when it comes to control, precision, and mainly speed, they would have a hard time even landing a hit on the guy. Not to mention, he would be easily able to catch multiple balls to bring in his teammates back in. Hell, even saving Lindsay from one of Tyler's dumbass, spin shots after all. Which, at first she was liking Tyler, but she honestly likes, Rean a little bit more now. But even with Eva being part of the, Killer Bass and adding more power to that of their team, Rean could still win this for them. Mainly taking advantage of Eva's temper, after all. That was going to be the biggest deciding factor, which soon led to that of the Screaming Gophers taking another win. So yeah, and the person being eliminated from the Killer Bass once more, you would think would be Eva because of her not being able to get the winning blow. However, that's not the case. The person getting eliminated is Tyler. Yeah, Tyler is definitely getting eliminated. Dude is absolutely useless, to be honest. He couldn't even land a proper hit on anybody from the other team with all those stupid spin throws. Guy's a show-off, not a real jock after all. So yeah, next up, the talent show. And to be honest, as much as I want to say that the Screaming Gophers can win this one, especially with Rean on here, honestly, it could go either way. Rean would tell him that he's good at basically playing guitar, not on any level that, his best friend Elliot is from Class 7. but decent enough alongside that of Trent. However, he could show off his skills in the 8 leaves 1 blade style school. Heather was kind of skeptic on Rean basically showing off some swordplay. Hell, part of her even thinks that he was just pretending that he's some kind of skilled swordsman or something. With Rean basically saying that he's not even on master level yet, that he's still an intermediate level, which trying to prove even more. However, those like that of Trent, Owen, alongside Lindsay and Beth, hell, even that of Lashana wants to see what he's capable of after all. And he does exactly that. But then, showing off his 8 leaves 1 blade style, before anyone could notice, as he has that of an apple on top of that of a tree stump, but then getting into his stance, leaning forward, left leg back, hand ready on the hilt of his Itachi, but then unsheathing that of the single edge blade before then sheathing it once again. As soon the apple basically not just split in 2, but actually split in 3, which caught everybody off guard as Rean basically cut it twice, which left everybody completely in shock. But then Trent could up and say, "Dude, you said that sword was blunted, didn't you?" Then saying, "Yeah, it is." With Justin saying, "Then how the hell are you even able to cut that apple?" With then saying, "Years and years of training, that's all." As even though his master stopped his training due to Rean holding himself back due to his, fears of himself after all, he never stopped trying to improve himself, no matter what. So yeah, Rean is the one who's starting off for that of the Screaming Gophers. Then there's Trent with his song and Heather with that of her ballet dancing. As for the Killer Bess, it basically stays the same as before, with DJ with his gymnastics, Trent and his skateboard, and last but not least, Courtney with her violin. However, that all could change with the Killer Bass basically, placing bets on how long Bridget could basically do her walk around on her hands after all, before getting caught in that of a light fixture on the stage before it begins to fall. As it was about to hit that of Courtney, without warning, somebody ended up grabbing Courtney and also her violin at the same time. But then, soon everybody completely shocked as the light fixture lands on the stage, crashing through that of the wood. But then, Rean can up and say, "Whew, lucky I was able to make it in time." With then soon saying, "You okay, Courtney?" With soon, Courtney seeing that of Rean, with her being held in his arms, but then saying, "Yeah, I am, and could you put me down already?" But then realizing, "Oh, sorry." Duncan walking over to the two saying, "Wow, surprised you actually helped her. What's your deal, gopher?" But then Rean looking at Duncan saying, "I was just walking by until I saw what happened. I kind of knew it was about to happen, so I stepped in." But then Bridget walking over to Courtney saying, "Courtney, I am so sorry for what happened. I didn't mean to." With then Courtney saying, "It's okay, accidents happen. You should have just been more careful though." And holding tight to that of her violin saying, "Thanks for the help, Rean. Surprised you even helped out anyway." Within Rean saying, "Well, I won't lie. It would be easier to eliminate you guys a lot more this way, but I'm not the kind of person to basically play dirty after all. That's all." After saying his piece, he soon walks away, leaving some of the guys completely wondered and confused, with even Bridget wondering about how Rean acts. However, Courtney, on the other hand, couldn't help but actually like Rean, at least in one way or another. As for the talent show, honestly, this is kind of a mess. Rean was the opening act for that of the Screaming Gophers, so I see him getting quite a bit of a lot, especially showing off one of his S-crafts, being that of his, Termination / Dawn, which gives the Gophers quite a bit of a huge margin of points, but not enough to basically get all 10 out of 10. And the thing that would cost them, once again, would be Heather reading Gwen's diary, after all, on live television. With that, it basically leaves Rean completely and utterly, well, tired of Heather's bullshit, after all. As for that of the Killer Bass, once again, they basically, well, suffered quite a bit with DJ not, well, sticking it with his gymnastics, Jeff breaking his skateboard, which leaves that Katie and Sadie to step in, actually, surprisingly. And their dance skills aren't really that good. Hell, they're pretty damn bad, but not too bad, to be honest. But still not giving them a lot of points. But then you have that of Courtney and her violin, which actually was quite a bit, to be honest. Since they kept on saying that if Courtney didn't break her violin, the Killer Bass, even without Harold, would have still gotten quite a bit of points after all, and possibly even won it. So yeah, Killer Bass, after a 3-way losing streak, wins, with the Screaming Gophers finally going into elimination. And the person that they eliminate, you would think would be Justin, given that he hasn't really contributed anything, to be honest. However, Rean kind of convinced a few people to vote for that of Heather, actually. After that stunt with that of, well, Gwen's diary, nah, she needed to go. That was completely, totally uncalled for. So yeah, Heather is gone pretty early on in the game. And it's all thanks to Rean, which soon leads to that of the alliance between Heather, Lindsay, and Beth to basically disband because of it. Now, since their leader is gone, they basically have themselves to help with. However, Rean, not the kind of guy to basically always want to help those in need, would try and help them out throughout the competition to hang in there. Next up is that of the camping challenge, with each teams having to spend the night in that of the woods before arriving back in that of early on in the morning to win the challenge. And to be fair, another thing that makes this pretty easily with Rean and everything, especially taking charge as the leader of, well, the Screaming Gophers. Well, unofficial leader of the Screaming Gophers, with basically bringing up the strengths of each one of them to help out. Surprising that Owen is pretty good at getting fish and all that. Having that of Trent and Justin, even though Justin really reluctant to help anyway for that of camping, because again, it's Justin, the entitled pretty boy. And even having that of the girls basically gather up firewood. The only person missing was Izzy a few times here and there, as they are basically cooking the fish that Owen and Rean gathered. That's when a bear shows up, with Rean basically figuring out, saying, "Seriously, Izzy, you really are trying to freak us out wearing that costume?" As soon hearing that, Izzy couldn't help but basically sigh in out of annoyance, and also that, but not too basically broken up about it, as she removes that of the bear mask, showing that of the crazy redhead, with Gwen actually kind of shocked, saying, "How the hell did you know that it was Izzy under that and not a real bear?" But then Rean basically brings up that he's able to sense people and can tell things from that of people or animals, something he's always been good at as a kid. Also something that his master told him to cultivate alongside that of drilling the basics of the unarmed form of the 8 leaves 1 blade style, which is basically, well, replica of Shotokan karate after all, but still. However, that's also the same time when an actual bear shows up, which then everybody thinking that it's basically somebody pretending, before Rean says that it's not a pretend bear, that it's actually a real bear, which leaves everybody to realize he's right, as the bear basically wanting the fish, but Rean basically standing in front of it, as he did bring that of his, well, training sword with him just in case, as he fights off the bear with his Itachi, with everybody completely shocked that Rean is able to hold his own against that of a bear. And trust me, total drama bears aren't somebody to screw with after all. But even with that, he's able to hold his own and beat that of the bear without even breaking a sweat, even with that of his training sword. With the bear basically quite wounded, and Rean only got a few scratches here and there, it soon runs off now to lick its wounds. But then still, as his teammates are still completely and utterly shocked about this, but then saying, "Hey guys, it's safe now, you can come back down." Leaving everybody still completely and utterly shocked about Rean's capabilities. But after that, screaming gophers got at least a good night's sleep inside of their tent instead of basically normally in canon sleeping in that of a tree because they're afraid of a bear after all. Arriving back at camp a lot faster than that of the killer bass. Even if the killer bass even showed up, it's not like they would be able to gain that of the win, given that, just like in canon, Katie and Sadie basically wander off in the woods, get lost, and then come back, which soon cost them the challenge either way. So yeah, either one of Katie and Sadie is going in, it being that of Katie. Next up, the fear phobia challenge, as all the campers basically gathering around that of a campfire after that of the elimination between that of the, killer bass. They soon talk about that of their fears, with it soon coming around that of Rean, as says that his biggest fear is not being able to live up to other people's expectations of him and failing them after all. But his number one fear is not being able to keep promises that he makes to his friends, as it got kind of pretty deep with that of Rean after all, which soon led to that of the fear challenge, beginning with each and every one of the competitors having to face their fears on each team. And given that the, killer bass have lesser members than that of the screaming gophers, to be honest, they need every win that they can get. And luckily, since Tyler is gone, one of their biggest, crutches is basically gone too. So I believe the killer bass could win this. The only thing that could, hinder them if Rean could basically surpass his challenge. And to be honest, let's be honest, this is Trails of Cold Steel 2 Rean. Rean basically accepts his faults and failures all the way until that of the end of until Cold Steel 4, and also Trails into Reverie as well. So yeah, I don't see, just like that of Izuku with that of his self-worth issues and not living up to All Might's legacy, Rean would also fail this challenge as well. Asta would basically be able to get his due to him not aware of that of the Sister Lily fake after all, given how much of a simp he is for that woman. But add that with the extra points that Chris would give Killer Bass if they completed their challenge, I could see the Killer Bass winning this, sending the Screaming Gophers to elimination once more. And to be fair, this time, yes, we're getting rid of Justin. Because let's be honest, to be fair, he would definitely need to get rid of, because again, the whole fear of not being pretty and looking good after all, or seeing himself in that of a mirror, to be honest. So yeah. Next up of challenges is the canoe race to that of Boney Island and back to the camp. And to be fair, there's not really much we could actually do with this one. It would basically play out the same as it would have in canon. Hell, it would even probably be even better for that of the Killer Bass, actually, given that, again, Eva is here, giving the Killer Bass the win that they all desperately needed once more, sending somebody home, and that being Izzy, due to her advice and bullshit. However, being basically run off by that of the RCP after all. Next challenge is that of the deer hunts, and everything would basically play out the same as before. However, the only difference is, since Heather isn't here to give that of Beth and Lindsay orders, they're basically free to do as they please. However, they stick with that of, Rean, to be fair, given, unfortunately, Rean isn't a hunter, he is a deer. And as much as he would want to support that of, Lindsay and Beth, he has to keep his distance from all hunters, even his own teammates for the time being. But if he can give them some, information on any other deer nearby from other teams. Unfortunately, Owen goes off to do his own thing, Lashana also willing to work as a team player, but let's just say she's willing to do her own thing as well. You would think without Heather, everything would play out at least a little bit more differently. Possibly, they wouldn't even lose this. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. The Tiki doll still basically happens either way, due to Beth basically taking the Tiki doll. You would think that Rean would tell Beth not to basically get it, but he didn't get the chance to due to being too busy with the challenge. Not to mention, he was hoping that somebody else on the team would have told her as well, possibly even Lindsay, but he didn't think that through. So yeah, Screaming Gophers are still cursed, and the worst part is they're not even aware of it, even now. Which leads to one of the Screaming Gophers being eliminated, and that one being, just like in canonical order, Cody. Unfortunately, mainly because Cody did interact with a bear. Even without the chips basically getting involved, he still gets mauled by a bear. Worst part is, Rean takes this hard even more because he should have been there to protect Cody and feeling responsible. With everybody from the Screaming Gophers trying to comfort Rean and say that it's not his fault. But even so, this is still Rean we're talking about. He takes every failure and every mistake that could have been prevented if he was there seriously. So yeah. But Cody is not going to be useful for challenges due to him being mauled by the bear and completely bandaged up like crazy. With Beth sending him away to the Dock of Shame and bringing up her own Tiki idol. However, Cody wouldn't be able to say anything about it. Next up, the cooking challenge, the 3-course meal challenge. And honestly, this would be a little bit different, but it would still end the same. But even so, let's go into details about it though. The reason being, Rean would take up spot as the head chef, given that once again, Heather's not here to be bossy as hell. With Rean bringing up certain dishes that he's pretty good at, and I think would be easy for everybody else to handle. First up being that of an explosive omelet, potato croquettes, and cheesy fondue. Basically a Japanese style omelet, potato fried croquettes, alongside that of cheesy fondue. Surely nothing bad will happen to that of the Screaming Gophers after all. Unfortunately, everything bad happened, with Owen getting stung, Trent getting hospitalized by Owen accidentally. For some weird reason, Lashana's allergy to pineapples kicked in, even though they didn't need pineapples. And the weirdest thing is, when Rean was working on that at the fondue, the melted cheese was so hot to the point that it almost burned through the freaking table. Yet he didn't even put it on that of a pretty high heating temperature, which left to Rean realize that their entire team has now been cursed because none of these accidents make no sense to happen. That this isn't even a coincidence. Because of this, it led to their team basically failing to the Killer Bass once again. With Lashana basically getting annoyed at this, wondering why they keep on losing, with even Rean getting shocked by this, wondering too, until Beth basically wondering brought up her good luck charm, thinking that it should help, but yet it didn't. But then Rean couldn't help but ask, where did you get the good luck charm from, by any chance, Beth? With Beth basically bringing up the fact that she got it from the other island from 2 challenges ago. With then bringing up the fact about Boney Island, freaking out everybody on the team, and even Chris. So yeah, Beth is gone, just like canonically too. And now with the curse gone, it's now time for the Screaming Gophers to get back on track, with the 5-way challenge between that of trust exercises. And honestly, this goes on pretty well, to be fair. And it's all mainly due to that of Rean actually trusting in each and every one of his teammates, even with the whole, Lindsay poisoning Trent and all that, and Lindsay accidentally dropping Rean in that of a water filled with jellyfish. But even so, they still win, mainly due to a technicality with DJ basically opening his eyes in a challenge where he wasn't supposed to. So yeah. However, the person getting eliminated though is, Sadie, to be honest. Of course, it's going to be Sadie. Mainly out of pettiness due to her basically knocking out Courtney after all. Next up, we have that of the, well, boot camp training challenge. And honestly, this is where Rean basically flourishes the most, to be fair. Again, he attends a military academy. He was trained by one of the best swordsmen in the world. And given that he has an instructor that's kind of just like Chef, to be honest, that being his instructor Nightheart, but at least Nightheart's a lot more fair and less sadistic, it's not going to be too hard for Rean to win this for the Screaming Gophers. And as for the Killer Bass, they lose. However, honestly, since that of Harold isn't here to rig the votes, the person that's getting eliminated is definitely going to be Eva, mainly due to her temper. So yeah, definitely she's out. Next up, the Extreme Challenges. A three-way game between that of the competition before the merger begins. And to be fair, this wouldn't be too hard, to be honest, once more. Instead of Trent being chosen for that of the, well, parachute jump alongside DJ, instead it's Rean actually, where DJ nearly knocked over that of Rean over the edge. However, lucky he was able to catch himself before capable. Figuring out that of the best trajectory before he can land. He lands pretty easily onto that of the messed up mattress that he had to land on. Same also goes for that of DJ as well, but barely, making this game that of a tie. As for that of the moose riding, Lashana still wins that with Jeff losing. And last but not least, the mud ski challenge. As the one doing that of the riding is, well, Trent, surprisingly, for the Screaming Gophers. However, the one for that of the Killer Bass is Bridget. And it's not too hard for Bridget to basically make through this pretty easily, especially given her being a surfer, even if it is mud racing, given that of the, well, Killer Bass, the win for that one. However, next up is the jet ski race between Duncan and with that of the Killer Bass, right? And that and Lindsay being the one basically right being the skier. And of course, Lindsay also basically, well, wins once again, turning into another tie. But given that the Screaming Gophers have only one win and it turns into two ties. So yeah, Screaming Gophers win once more, sending somebody from the Killer Bass home. And unfortunately, that person being Jeff. Next up, the Brunch of Disgustingness. As the merger is just on the corner. Last but not least is a team between that of boys versus girls. With the boys team composed of Rean, Trent, Owen, DJ, and also Duncan. With the girls team composed of Courtney, Lindsay, Gwen, Lashana, and also Bridget. With a Brunch of Disgustingness composed of the dirtiest, most disgusting, and most gnarly meals known to man. If each team eats all of their meals, they'll be able to win. However, if one team doesn't, they gain no points and they lose. Whoever team has the most points wins that of their very first reward challenge. A 2-week stay at a 5-star resort, and also that of vaccine shots for anything that they gain during this challenge. Luckily for Rean, honestly, he kind of screws at least a few challenges here and there, given how disgusting most of the meals that they had to face after all, which leads that of a tie-breaking match between Owen and Lashana, with Owen basically winning it all for the guys. And then after their vacation's a little bit over, that's when it's time for the merger. Every camper for themselves. So leaving Rean all by himself, which kinda, well, makes Rean a little bit upset, but he's able to handle himself. However, with that, two little competitors making a return. First up being, by popular demand, Heather. And by popular demand, it was basically a coin flip between Harold or Heather. And honestly, Heather won. And next up being Izzy. And now time for No Pain, No Game. Basically, each camper has to last that of 10 to 30 seconds in that of torturous situations. Well, not too torturous. They don't want to be canceled after all. Given that this is basically an endurance match, it wouldn't be too hard for Rean to basically win this challenge pretty easily. He's been through a lot of torturous and pretty brutal situations, especially going through his journey at Thor's after all, and fighting in a civil war at the age of 17 to 18, so yeah. Honestly, all of this was somewhat child's play, but at least somewhat unbearable here and there. Not to mention, which in an understandable reason, Heather has it out for that of Rean, given that she knows that Rean was the one who convinced a few of the others to basically vote her off. So she's basically out for blood. Not to mention, she also hates the fact that Lindsay is basically always clinging towards Rean too, and is not willing to keep their alliance going like they promised, which makes it a little bit frustrating. But even so, Lashana still wins immunity for this challenge, given that she was able to earn it. As for the person being eliminated, it was really close. It was either going to be between that of Heather and Rean, and luckily, Heather got eliminated. Now, you may be wondering, Leon, why the hell was Rean almost eliminated? Well, because again, he's one of the biggest threats now. He's confident, he's capable, he has a lot more training, he's more skilled, and he's pretty damn smart, to be honest. The only thing holding him back is his self-worth after all. And if it wasn't for Heather being more hateable, Rean was definitely going to be close to being eliminated. Next up is the Searching for Buried Treasure Challenge. And just like in that of the past videos, it's basically random on who gets the immunity after all. Anybody could basically get it or anybody can't. And same also goes for Rean. So once again, I use one of my 20-sided dice to see if he gains immunity while looking for that of his treasure. Unfortunately, he still doesn't gain immunity, but he was close. Pretty closer than even that of Izuku or Austin in their videos. He landed on a 19, so if he just went over a little bit over more, he could have gotten a 20. But other than that, Rean still stands test of time. Not to mention, with Heather not being here, Trent and Gwen's relationship still flourishes pretty damn well. However, the person that is getting eliminated though is, well, unfortunately, Courtney. Yeah, I don't see Courtney basically lasting any longer than she has now. Not to mention, the person that got the immunity, ticket for the challenge was Gwen, to be fair. So yeah, Courtney is now officially gone from Total Drama. However, she didn't go without saying at least a goodbye to Rean in one way or another. So next up is that of the hide and seek challenge, as each of the campers had to hide away from Chef, and if once found, they have to basically help him find other campers. As for them to win immunity, they have to basically go to that of the lifeguard chair on the dock of shame after all. So yeah, as for Rean, honestly, once again, child's play. To be honest, Chef may have been quite a bit of a challenge, especially finding out that he may be a veteran soldier of all things. But once again, Rean's combat skills and training soon comes in. Not to mention, he tries to help out Lindsay here and there too, to make sure that she doesn't get eliminated too early on after all, given that she sucks at hiding, mainly due to her being quite a ditz and also, her body after all. All of that before Duncan proposed that of a guys only alliance between them and the girls. To be honest, Rean is actually kind of okay with this. But for now, he doesn't plan on abandoning Lindsay after all. She needs as much help as she can get farther as he is. Even though this is a merger and normally it's every camper for themselves, Lindsay is one of his closest friends during Total Drama. He ain't going to abandon her so easily. So for now, he'll pretend to basically help out that of Duncan. However, he actually was close to basically gaining immunity alongside Lashana, as he was able to make it back to that of the lifeguard chair ahead of time. before that of Chef could basically, well, spray him with that of a water gun. So yeah, Rean finally gains that of immunity, but the person being eliminated though is Bridget, just like in canon. Next up is the bike riding challenge. And to be fair, this isn't going to be too hard for that of somebody like that of Rean though. However, unfortunately, this does come at an end for Rean, to be fair. Mainly because of one thing, he's too much of a nice guy. While basically building a bike and seeing how hard that Lindsay is working hard for her bike too, during the first half of the challenge, he ended up giving his bike to her, while he ended up getting that of Owen's bike, as their bikes were able to make it, alongside the bikes that they were riding too. And all that lied was the last challenge, as the first person who makes it through that of the finish line first gains immunity. However, the person who doesn't, and is the last person behind the line, unless their bike is destroyed, is basically eliminated. No ceremony, no marshmallow, just straight to the boat of losers. And that's exactly what happened. Lindsay made it quite far through that of the bike riding challenge. Hell, she was basically downright perfect until her bike ended up getting stuck at the piranha pool, which led to that of Rean basically going over her head and making it through that of the finish line, gaining immunity. You would think because of this, Rean would basically stay, and given that he earned it. Unfortunately, seeing on how hard that Lindsay worked through this challenge and her giving it her all, he decided to just give up his immunity and give it to Lindsay instead, with everybody wondering why. But then Rean says that he wasn't really in it to win Total Drama to begin with. Not to mention, he believes that some of you guys deserve it far more than he does. And he believes Lindsay deserves to win it even more. With that, leaves the blonde girl basically in tears, with Rean being eliminated from Total Drama Island, but not being eliminated without a goodbye kiss from Lindsay, as she promises to basically give it her all and not give up at all. And with that, he soon goes to that of the resort for losers, for basically all the other Total Drama eliminated campers, where he basically spends time with everybody else. Hell, a few of them basically asked why he basically gave up his immunity and winning it, as he even gave them the same answer. He did not care. He didn't come here to win at all. He just came here just for a vacation. With everybody kind of shocked, saying vacation, with then just Rean just saying that it's just, he'll go into details another time. As he relaxes alongside, and with that of even more participants showing up, being that of other eliminatees such as, well, DJ, Izzy, Trent, Lashana, and he has to blame himself for that one because they all said her name without wanting to, all because they were saying her name. Then nobody else got eliminated. And however, after that, Duncan finally got eliminated. And last but not least, Lindsay, unfortunately, as she was basically tag teamed by that of, well, Gwen and also Lashana during the last challenge before the final two. And surprisingly, Lindsay made it as far as she did, mainly just to keep Rean's promise. After hearing that, Rean couldn't help but have a warm feeling in his heart. However, between that of Lashana and Gwen, honestly, Lashana's gonna have to win it. As much as I love Gwen, Lashana earns this victory dead on. And such, she gains that of $500,000, fair and square. As before, Rean could basically congratulate that of Lashana for winning, he soon got a call, as he was able to get his phone back. As then soon a certain, somewhat annoying, but always arrogant voice saying, "Hey there, Schwarzer. It looks like you're finally finished," saying, "Can I help you, Major Lecter?" What then? Lecter saying, "Got another mission. Your old man needs you for something. Within, Rean can up and narrow his eyes saying, the chairman needs me for something. That man is not my father. Within, Lecter saying, ouch, sorry, touchy subject. But yeah, once you're done with your whole little game show vacation, head back to the nearest base. You and Valimar are needed. Within, Rean can't help but sigh saying, roger that. As in closing his phone, can't help but feel a little bit dread on what he has to do, but for now, he's enjoying his time with the friends he has made here from Total Drama Island. And that's it. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please tell me what you guys think in the comments below. Love to read them. So, what do you guys think? Sorry that Rean basically gave up his chance of winning. Honestly, that's exactly what Rean would definitely do. Guy is always willing to self-sacrifice victory if it means helping out others. Especially if it's a victory that he feels like he didn't deserve and somebody else earned after all. And don't get me wrong, Rean is not the kind of person to give up something so easily. That's far from Rean's character. He can be just as selfish as anybody else. However, his selfishness mainly comes when it comes to helping out others after all. It's only when he's helping out others that's when he becomes pretty damn selfish. So yeah, Rean didn't win that of the Screaming Gophers route, unfortunately. Hopefully that may change during the Killer Bass route. Anyway, if you guys like this, please like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell notification to get updated my videos upload to the channel. Also, please check out my Discord, gaming channel, side channel, other channel, Patreon, Cash App, and PayPal. All linked in the description below. So, with all that said, this is Yamuki, signing out. Later guys, hope you all take care. Do your thing, my Shiro.
Hi everyone, this is White Fox. If you liked Leon's video, click the video on the left to see the most recent one. And if you want to see more of this, click the subscribe button and notification bell. And check out his playlists. If you still haven't subscribed, do so in the center. With that said, I hope to see you again on my love's channel. Bye!